Jai Hind everyone. I am Kajal Kaushal, Assistant Professor from IT Department, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today, this video lecture is covering all about PCY algo. It's the algorithm that counts the frequent item sets. We know that in data analytics, it's all about analyzing beforehand what is going to happen. I mean, it's about the prediction that will be done in a descriptive way. We can't predict anything without knowing the details, without knowing the description of it, as we have already discussed it prior. So, this algo, it is better than the algos like a priori, the FA. It's better because it utilizes less memory, and it's utilizes the less memory because it just removes all the in between candidate keys pairs and takes only the account of those candidate pairs which are uh, following the threshold value, which are above the threshold value. This threshold value can be anything. So let's dive into it to learn more and know more. So basically, during the 1995-94, around that, Park, Chan, and Yu, these scientists, they coined up with and come up with the algorithm that they named as PCY algo, and they thought that it would be better if we can bypass many of the candidate keys that are exactly the item values. The item can be anything. For example, if we are purchasing, if we are going to a grocery store, we are going to a shopping mall, and we are purchasing different items, okay, A, B, C, D, E, maybe anything. And from there, we around in say 10 transactions, we group all these items in different pairs. Okay, now for analyzing which of the pair is more frequently bought, then we need the descriptive way, the descriptive analysis of each and every transaction. There, in every step, our every item pair will be occupying some of the memory space, whether its count is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or as many. But we want to exclude this part. We want to utilize our memory efficiently. So we need to bypass this thing. We need to know how much frequent items are being brought without utilizing that memory. That means with the efficient utilization of the memory, we need to skip in between passes. So this algo is executed in two passes. In the first one, we generally count the numbers and then assigned a proper memory space to it, to the count, and then proceed in a way. And this is a very important concept in the data mining approach. In the data mining approach, there are various algos, but this is highly appreciated, approved one, better than a priori. So, in a priori algo, as we know that we counted the frequent items, then we assigned the values. Again, we counted the frequent items in terms of double pair. Then we counted our number of items were there. The number of items that were above the threshold value, we made the pair. Then be it two in numbers, 3 in numbers, 4 in numbers, or as many. But it is better than a priori because in just 2 passes, it will come up with the value that will be of the value of the most frequent items bought. So it reduces the memory usage, and also it reduces the computation cost, because as many passes as we use, it will be more complex, it will be utilizing more space, it will be more costly. The key idea behind this algo is that it uses the hashing technique. Hashing function is the function that is pre-decided, that is decided beforehand, that's calculated in the modulo 10 arithmetic. Now, this is not certain that it will be this only. It can be anything, but it's decided beforehand. Most prominently used is that mod 10, that is modulo 10 arithmetic problem. And here we just take into account of our items and form this hash function. Now, this hashing is a way to reduce the candidate pairs. We need to reduce the candidate pairs. The candidate pairs that were there in the a priori, our objective is to minimize that thing. Why minimize that thing? Because, let me explain, in the a priori algo, we stored the candidate pairs in two ways. First one was our triangular way, and second one was our tabular way. Now let's suppose there are few items and we made a pair of it like A, B, C, D, and here we are storing it in the form of a triangular matrix. Okay, let's suppose this item is coming 2 times, this is 3 times, this is 0, again this is 3 times, this is 0, and again this is 1 time. So here we can observe, I'm now explaining this triangular part only. Here we see that the count, the pair AB is coming 2 times, AC coming 3 times, AD is 0 times, BC is coming 3 times, BD is coming 0 times, CD is coming 1 time. We can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 6 pairs are there. Okay. But the count of 2 pairs is 0. Be it 0, it will utilize the memory space. It will occupy the memory space. Even if the count is 0, it will occupy the memory space. Now, if we say that one pair is occupying 4 bytes of memory, that means the 6 pairs are going to occupy 24 bytes of memory. And beside the fact that 2 were not having any count, then also it was utilizing 24 bytes of memory. Now, if we see the tabular form, then here, if we store it in terms of first item, second item, and the count of the item, okay. First item utilizes 4 bytes of memory, second item utilizes 4 bytes of memory, count utilizes 4 bytes of memory. That means for a pair, we need 12 bytes of memory. Okay. Now here in this case, these 6 pairs, amongst these 6 pairs, only 4 pairs are having the value other than 0. That means 4 into 12, that means 48 bytes of memory is being utilized in the tabular form. Now, it is even then, it is better, but it is better in case of the sparse data. When our data will be small, then we will need the tabular form, because if we consider that, let's say the value is only for just one pair and all other pairs are having the count 0. At that time also, the triangular matrix is going to utilize the 24 bytes of memory, even if there is only one pair. And the tabular form will then utilize only 12 bytes of memory. Then we can see the difference when we consider a small amount of data. That means for the sparse data, we need to consider the tabular form, and for the dense data, we need to consider the triangular form. So in the a priori, be it tabular, be it triangular, we needed this much amount of the memory space for storing these candidate data. Okay, so we need to emphasize more on this tabular form. We need to know more about the frequent data items. So the key idea is to reduce the candidate pairs so that we can utilize our memory efficiently. So for that, all these memories, the value are now imparted as the form of address. These candidate pairs must be having certain address. These addresses are stored in the hash buckets, and we need to keep a count of these hash buckets. Okay. So the first step here is to get to know our data set, then count the individual items, and just like the a priori, we start off with the same way. We start off by counting the individual items. So we can visualize it in this way, that here is our main memory. Okay. In the first pass 1, we just count the individual items, not the frequent, just count the individual items. So that means the items are being counted. Okay. After that, this, let's say it is L1. We need to generate, this is L0. We need to now generate this L1 out of it. Okay. So the memory that I visualized to you, that means we just counted, and in the same pass, that was the pass 1. Now in the same pass, we will now make a hash table. This hash table will keep the account of this counting. Okay. After that, we move on to the second pass. Here comes the actual benefit of the PCY algo. This bitmap, how it will work? After the pass 1, we now move to the pass 2. So in the pass 1 that we used, here it was the hash table. Now in pass 2, this hash table will be transformed to the bitmap. Okay. This bitmap is nothing but the validity that that particular pair is exceeding the threshold value or not. That means it's just telling us whether it is valid or invalid, whether it is true or false, it should be there or not. Is it applicable or not? So that means the frequency of the count is maintained. That means here it was just the count in the pass 1, and now it will move to count of the items, and now it will move to the frequent items. Okay. In the step 4, generate the candidate pairs only from the frequent buckets. Now that we moved from pass 1 to pass 2, here only in the pass 2, whichever pair now exceed the threshold value will be treated as the candidate pair, the final candidate pair. Okay. So it just reduces the in-between number of the candidate pairs that we were getting in the a priori algo. The advantages we can list up as it utilizes less memory, as I already discussed, the triangular and the tabular form. It is way too faster than the a priori algo, but it is efficient for the large data sets. If we talk about a minimum little amount of data, then it will be repeatable, because we can see the same threshold value is checked twice. It will be checked 2 times in the same algo. So it is efficient for the large data sets only. For every good thing, we need to maintain a trade-off. So the trade-off here is that despite of these many advantages, there are these disadvantages also listed here. First, there can be hash collision. Whenever we are using the hash function, then the value can be anything. For example, let's say if we have a pair of AB and the hash function gives the value 5, maybe we could have a pair, another pair CD, which is again having the hash value 5, then it will obviously collide. The value will be stored in the same bucket. So it will be a collision factor whether this value is of AB or this value is of CD. But as I say, it's the trade-off. For some of the, getting many much advantages, we can at least have some of the other negative part also. Extra overhead of hashing. In the a priori algo, the calculation was done in quite a simple way. Every time and every step when we were making the item set, we were just counting the data and proceeding forward. So there was not much of the complexity. Not much many calculation was involved. But here the calculation is a way ahead, because we need to keep track of the hash function calculation also. For that, we need to make certain hash function, then we need to count that, we need to keep that value, we need to track of that value, then we need to convert that value to the bitmap value, then finally we get the candidate item. The applications we can see here is in the market basket analysis. Market basket analysis, a very trending topic these days. That means knowing the ideology, knowing the mindset of the customer beforehand by just going through the transactions, or just by going through the hyperlinks that the customer clicks on. We analyze beforehand, we predict beforehand. By seeing the descriptive way, we predict the very same thing. That's the market basket analysis. The recommendation systems, as we see these days while online shopping, while doing any online activity, we browse through, by watching any video that we browse through, we are given certain recommended sites, we are given certain recommended products. So these are the applications where this PC algo is being used. Then the third one is the retail analytics. It's quite a trending thing, and we take the help of, not that the a priori doesn't suits here, a priori also suits here, but if we talk about large data sets, then certainly the PCY is hero here. So these we have discussed right now that the a priori and FP growth are computationally expensive. It takes time, okay, computationally expensive, not as such in the complexity of the computation, just it takes time for the computation because there are many steps, okay, and PCY reduces the candidate generation using the hashing technique, okay. The working concept is just that we need this hash-based approach to count the item. It avoids generating the large number of candidate items, and it improves the mining process. Okay. This thing, the things that I discussed right now can be jotted down in these two algo method. For the pass one, where we just counted the item, where we created the hash table, for that, we need to browse through each and every basket. We need to browse through each and every basket. Every basket means if we consider this is a transaction ID, here there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these are every baskets. 1, 2, 3, 4 are the baskets here. In the one, there can be A, B, C items. Here it can be B, C, D items, and likewise. So these are the baskets here. First we enter inside the basket, and then when we enter inside the basket, then we count the items. First in the first basket, then in the second, then in the third and fourth. Likewise. So while we need to complete all these baskets, we need to go through all these baskets. So this is the first pass. In the second one, where we need to count the frequent, there we need to check whether the values of the first pass is exceeding the threshold or is below that. If it is exceeding, then it will be treated as the frequent candidate pair. If not, then it will be just pruned or discarded. Okay. Then finally we determine the frequent pairs. Okay. Now let's solve this numerical problem. The question here is, for the given transactions, find the frequent item pairs using the PCY algo considering the threshold as 2. So these are the transactions given to us. These are the values. Okay. Now we need to build up certain values for this. Okay. First, we need to find the length of each item and eliminate items whose count is less than 2. So, we need to count each and every item. First, we need to check how many items are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So, that means there are 5 items. So, here there are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 items. Okay. Then, 1 is coming 1, 2, 3 times. We are counting these items. These are the items. 1 is coming 3 times. 2 is coming 1, 2 and 3 times. 3 is coming 1, 2 times. 4 is coming 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 times. And 5 is coming 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is coming 4 times. So, let's check whether any of the item is below the threshold value. But here we can see none of the item is below the threshold value. So, every item is being considered. All the items are eligible for making the candidate pair. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay. Now we need to form the key value pair. For the key value pair, we need to again browse to the first one. T1, 1, 2, 3. I need to write this first of all. 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. One, 4, 5, T4, T5. T4 is 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. And T6 is 2, 4, 5. T6 is 2, 4, 5. Okay. So, let's make the key value pair. How will the key value pair form? 1, 2 and 3. There are 3. So, we can form the key value. Key value is the pair. Key here is the pair. Okay. And value is the count. As to how many times is it occurring. So, the value will be 1, 2, secondly, it is 1, 3. Okay. 1, 2. How many times 1, 2 is coming? And also there is a third one. That is 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2. How many times 1, 2 is coming? 1, 2. 1, 2 is coming 2 times. 1, 2 is coming 2 times. 1, 3. 1 time. 2, 3. 1 time. Okay. Then 4, 5. 4, 5 is the only pair here. So, how many times 4, 5 is coming? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times. 4, 5 is coming 4 times. Here in 1, 4, 5, the pairs will be 1, 4. second one will be 1 5 1 5, and third will be 4 5, but we won't take it because we have already counted that. So 1 4, let's check for the 1 4. It's 1 2 2 times. 1 4 is coming 2 times. 1 5 1, let me see, it is coming 1 time. Okay, 1 5 is coming 1 time. Then 1 2 we have already taken. 1 4 we have already taken. Other one will be 2 4. 2 4 hasn't appeared. So let's count 2 4. How many times 2 4 is coming? 1 2. 2 4 is coming 2 times. Now coming to this side. 3 4 3 4, then 3 5. 3 5 is already not taken into account. So 3 5 and 4 5 is already counted. So let's skip it. 3 4. One time, only one time. 3 4 is one time. 3 5. One time. Let's check it again. It's just one time. Okay. 4 5 we need not consider. Here 2 4. 2 4 is already done. 2 5. 2 5 is not done. So let's take into account 2 5. 2 4 is done. 2 5 we have written. Then is 4 5. 4 5 is already done. So let's count for the 2 5. 2 5 is coming 1 times. Okay. Now here these are the threshold. These are the counts. That means these are the values that I am underlining. Okay. These are the values. Now we need to omit out or prune those values that are below the threshold value. Threshold value was 2. So which one will be omitted? This one, this one, this one, and this one. So what do we get? We get 1 2. Then after 1 2, here we get 4 5. Then we get 1 4, and we get 2 4. 2 4. So we get from this part, we get the frequent pairs 1 2, 1 4, 2 4, and 4 5. Okay. We need to remember this thing. Now eliminate pairs whose count of occurrence does not satisfy the threshold value. We counted that and we reached to this particular answer. This is the value of the pairs that we have got. Okay. Find the bucket numbers by applying the hash function. Here we need to apply the hash function. As I already told you that the hash function that we more often use is I cross j mod 10. So apply for the frequent pairs. What were our frequent pairs? Let's jot it down here. Frequent pairs were 1 2 1 4 2 4, 1 2 1 4 2 4, and one more was there. Let me check. It was 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4, 5. Let me cross check it once again. 1, 2, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4, 5, right? Okay. Now let's apply the hash function for this. Okay. So this will be 1 into 2 mod 10, which will be 2. It will be 1 into 4 mod 10, which will be 4. It will be 2 into 4 mod 10, and it will be 8, and this is 4 into 5 mod 10, it will be 0. Okay, these are the what are these? These are the bucket numbers. Okay, these are the bucket numbers. Here the address of these pairs are stored. Okay, used for storing the address. So we need not bring every time, we need not bring this 1, 2, 1, 1, 4, 2, 4, 4, 5, etc. And now we have reached to the final number. So let's write the pairs that we have. 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 4, 2, 4 and 4, 5. 2, 4 and 4, 5. Okay, what was their counting? 1, 2. 1, 2 was 2. 1, 2 was 2. 1, 4. 1, 4 was also 2. 2, 4. 2, 4 was 2. 4, 5. 4, 5 was 4. Okay. And the bucket number that we just calculated, for 1, 2, it's 2. For 1, 4, it's 4. For 2, 4, it's 8. And for 4, 5, it's 0. 4, 5, it's 0. Okay. This is the second pass value that we got, that we calculated. These are the pairs that we think that we have calculated as to the most frequent bought pairs. And these are the counts of these pairs exceeding the threshold value or above the threshold value, that those that were below that are already pruned off. And then these are the bucket numbers, the address of these pairs. Now we need to find the bit vector, whether we can assign it a valid value or not. So if the count is above the threshold, see, this is what we are doing it again. We are repeating this process that we have already done, and it's necessary because we are dealing with the huge data stream. That's the voluminous data. So we need to check, because maybe there can be some or the other error. So whosoever is having the count above the threshold value will get the valid number 1, else it will get the number 0. Here in our case, in our example, every pair is above the threshold, so every bit vector will be initialized to 1. And those bit vectors, those candidate pairs which has received the valid bit vector 1 comes to in the category of candidate set. So 1, 2 will come in the category of candidate set. 1, 4 will also come in the candidate set. 2, 4 will also come in the candidate set. And 4, 5 will also come in the candidate set. So here we are with our final solution. These are the frequent candidate sets that we have calculated by using the PCY algos. So that's how we reduced our time in comparison to the a priori algo. We reduced our memory space, and just by using a hash function that was storing the address of it, we calculated the whole frequently bought items. So I hope this numerical and the way the points that I explained were useful to you, and you are cleared, having a clear description or clear idea of the PCY algo. Let's meet again with another algo. Till then, enjoy. Bye bye. Thank you.